I'm going to show you how to make an elder necklace by whittling your own wooden beads. Whittling is the process of carving small wooden objects with a knife, and an elder tree is the same tree that gives us elderflower champagne and elderberry jam. It's also a tree that's long been associated with protection, and I like to think that when I wear my elder necklace, I'm protected by its powers too. Here's what you'll need to make your own necklace. You will need a saw or secateurs to cut your stick from the tree, a skewer or something pokey that'll help you push out the soft middle of every bead, a needle and some strong thread or cord to string the beads together, scissors, a clasp to close your necklace. I'm using 2 jump rings and a bolt ring clasp, glue or clear nail varnish to secure your knots, a knife. I'm using a knife that is designed for carving wood, but you can whittle with a penknife too. Just make sure your knife is very sharp. It's hard to control a blunt knife, and you're more likely to slip and cut yourself. If you can sharpen a pencil with your knife, then you can use it to carve these beads. Oh, and of course a stick. You need a stick from an elder tree. A freshly cut stick works best. If the stick has been stored inside for a few days, it will be dry and it's harder to carve. If you use a freshly cut stick, it's greenwood, and this wetter wood is much easier to carve. According to folklore, you should ask the elder tree's permission before you take any wood, and I always ask for permission from the tree and have yet to hear a tree say no. I'm using a leather strop and a green polishing compound to sharpen my knife. I'm using the rough side of the leather, and as I press the blade across the leather, the edge is honed and sharpened. It's a good idea to repeat this sharpening process every 30 minutes or so whilst you're carving, just to maintain a good sharp blade. Now let's talk about sticks. The stick on the right looks like it would be good for making beads, but I'm afraid it's too young. You can spot a young stick by the smooth silvery green bark, and there's quite a thick soft central pith in the middle. The stick on the left is what we're looking for. It's got a much smaller central core and a thicker ring of wood. You want more wood than whole, so to speak. So look for a stick that is a little bit older and has rougher brownish bark. Older, thicker and a bit more wrinkly is always best. And once you've got your stick, you need to strip off the bark. If your knife is good and sharp, this should be easy and feel a little bit like peeling a potato. It's good to take off a fairly thick slice with each cut. I like to take a bit of wood off with the bark because any cuts I make into the wood at this stage will help form the different facets on the surface of each bead. Don't take off too much wood though, or you won't have anything left to carve. And once you've stripped your stick, it's time to mark out each bead. Make some marks about 2 centimetres apart along the length of the stick. These marks will determine the length of each bead. And then using the blade of your knife and a rolling motion, score the circumference of the stick at each mark point. The safest way to make the cut is to use the length of the knife blade rather than the point. Hold the knife firmly, applying pressure with the blade against the stick, and turn the wood into the knife blade. These are called stop cuts, and a stop cut is used to create a groove that will stop the knife from cutting through the wood on the other side of the stop cut. Once you've cut all the lines, you can whittle your first bead. This is a push cut. I'm pushing the back of the knife with the blade against the wood, and it's just the push from my thumb that makes the cut. Keep making these little cuts around the top of the stick to shape the end of the first bead. Holding the stick in your non-dominant hand, I'm right-handed, so I'm holding the stick in my left, and with the knife in your other hand, use your non-dominant thumb to push the edge of the knife through the wood. Make sure that the blade is facing the stick and not your thumb, or you will cleanly take your thumb off and probably not be able to make a necklace. Keep making little cuts until you have a nice rounded shape. Keep your cuts small, this way the blade won't go in too deep and split the wood. Then once you've rounded the top, it's time to start shaping the other end of the bead. Make tiny cuts towards the stop cut line, taking off little nibbles of wood all the way round, sloping in towards that cut. Once you've made a little valley all the way round, begin cutting towards the other side of the stop cut. This will form the top of bead number 2. Keep cutting a deeper and deeper valley into either side of the stop cut. A few cuts above, a few cuts below, and tweak out any stubborn splinters as you go. until the first bead either snaps away in your hand or pings off like a champagne cork. Once the first bead is free, you can neaten the end with a knife to remove any wispy bits. Each bead should taper at each end and be fatter in the middle like a little lozenge. Don't worry about making any of them too uniform. It's nice to have some fatter than others, and any imperfections aren't really imperfections at all, they just add character. You can see here that the pith is still in the middle of the bead, but we'll remove that in a minute. If you're making the cuts with a really good sharp knife on green wood, you won't need to sand any of these beads because each cut will leave a beautifully smooth finish. Carry on making beads in exactly the same way until you've run out of stick and until you've got enough to make your necklace. I'm using 21 beads in this necklace, and my necklace is about 44 centimetres long. That's 18 inches, not quite big enough to go over my head. For this next part, you'll need a skewer or something pokey to push the pithy middle out of the bead. And I'll be honest, there is no art to this, just poke it out. Try to get out as much as you can, but don't worry if you leave a few bits inside, they'll work their way out eventually. You only really need to make sure there's enough of a hole for you to pass a needle and thread through, or whatever cord you're using. Then I like to lay my beads out so I can plan the design and put the fatter ones in the middle and use any smaller, thinner beads at either end of the necklace. Every stick gets thinner as it grows away from the tree anyway, so you usually end up with a variety of sizes. Once you have your beads arranged as you want, it's time to string them together. Take a long piece of thread, about 3 times the length you want your finished necklace to be. I'm always rather generous in my measurements on the thread, just so that I've got plenty of thread at the end to tie my knots. Fold your thread in half and pass the 2 ends through one of the jump rings. Then pull the thread through until you've almost pulled the loop all the way through the ring, but not quite. Then take the 2 ends and pass them back through this loop. As you pull it closed, it will form a little knot, and this is called a lark's head knot or a cow hitch. And this ring will stop the beads falling off as you string them. It will also be where you clip the bolt clasp to, so you can open and close your necklace. Rethread your needle with the ends of the thread, and you can start adding your beads. Once you've added all the beads you want, it's time to attach the second jump ring. Rethread your needle and pass the threaded needle through the ring a few times. But don't pull it all the way up to the last bead. Leave a little bit of wiggle room there. This will make your beads hang nicely around your neck. Pass the needle back through the ring a couple of times. Then tie a good strong knot by pulling the thread back on itself. If you don't want to use a clasp, you can just tie the necklace in a bow to secure it and easily undo it when you want to take the necklace off. Or, if you found a big enough stick and the necklace is long enough to slip over your head, you can tie the ends together permanently in a knot. Once you've made a good strong knot, pass the needle back through the closest couple of beads and snip off the ends. Then I'm going to add a dab of glue, just to make sure the knots don't slip. Clear nail varnish works well too. Wait for the glue or nail varnish to dry. And that's it. Sit back and admire your beautiful necklace. Or let everyone else admire you wearing your beautiful necklace. Please remember that the repetitive movements and the concentration required for whittling can really help calm your mind and promote a sense of focus and relaxation. So don't rush to finish this project. Enjoy the process, take your time, and do be proud of everything you make. If you enjoyed this tutorial, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more creative crafting projects.